All right, so let's dive into this SDA stuff today.
Okay.
You've brought some reports on SDA supply and demand,
I have.
specifically in Adelaide North
Yep,
and Perth Northwest in Australia.
that's right.
And these reports are from Peter Bellotis,
Yes,
who uh, really seems to know SDA investment trends.
he does. He follows it very closely.
Yeah, and I mean these reports are awesome,
Yeah,
but
they're dense.
they are really data heavy.
Lots of acronyms, lots of, just detailed breakdowns.
Yeah, and we're here to kind of try to help everyone make sure they understand
Yeah.
what the key takeaways are and really what it means for you, the listener.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is that they don't shy away from the complexities of the market.
Okay.
You know, Peter Bellotis breaks down the data in a way that I think really helps us to understand the nuances of each region,
Okay.
particularly in light of the NDIS review and its potential impact.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Before we get into the regional specifics,
Yeah,
I think it's worth just touching on SDA in general.
sure.
Why is the NDIS pushing to phase out basic and legacy stock?
Right.
I mean, it's still being used. So
It is.
what's the shift?
Well, it really comes down to quality and trying to reach those long-term goals
Okay.
that the NDIS is really striving for.
Gotcha.
You know, the review found that a lot of this older stock just doesn't meet the needs of participants,
Hmm.
particularly when it comes to things like independence and inclusion.
Okay.
You know, they might lack features like accessible kitchens or bathrooms,
Right.
which really hinders a person's ability to really live autonomously.
Yeah, it's not just about having a roof over your head. It's about having housing that really supports
Exactly.
your individual needs and goals.
100%. And that's where things like the Livable Housing Australia Gold Standard come in.
Right.
They really want to make sure that they're promoting accessibility and adaptability.
Gotcha.
Not just for now, but for years to come.
So higher standards, better quality of life.
Exactly.
Let's jump into the regional analysis.
Right.
Starting with Adelaide North.
Okay.
What jumped out at you from this report?
Well, the Adelaide North market is, I think it's really fascinating
Okay.
because it's in this constant state of flux.
Okay.
There's a construction boom happening,
Right.
which is great news
Yeah.
because it's increasing the supply of SDA housing.
Sure.
However, it is leading to a potential oversupply
Okay.
in certain areas and for certain types of SDO.
Right. So it's not as simple as saying Adelaide North has lots of SDA, so don't invest there.
Exactly. It's very nuanced.
Okay.
For instance, the report highlights an oversupply of robust housing in some areas.
Okay.
You know, these are dwellings that are designed for people with very high support needs,
Gotcha.
often with multiple rooms.
Okay.
But the demand might not necessarily be there for that type of SDA or for that many rooms.
So investors really need to pay attention to what categories are in demand.
Yes.
It's not just about building more, it's about building the right kind of SDA.
Precisely. And this is where understanding those regional variations really becomes crucial.
All right, let's walk through them.
Okay.
Where do things stand in Gawler 2 Wells?
So Gawler 2 Wells is a smaller market,
Okay.
and right now it is oversupplied.
Hmm.
However, that's likely to change.
Okay.
As existing dwellings age and retire,
Okay.
many of those older properties might not meet those new NDIS standards anyway,
So a potential opportunity down the line,
potentially.
but not necessarily a hot spot right now?
Not at the moment.
What about Playford and Salisbury?
So Playford and Salisbury are both already facing an oversupply.
Right.
And with more construction in the pipeline, that surplus could become even more pronounced.
So not a gold rush.
Not exactly, no.
Were there any areas in Adelaide North that stood out to you as potential investment hotspots?
Yeah, I mean, Tea Tree Gully seems to be bucking the trend a little bit.
Okay.
It's currently undersupplied, meaning there's a real need for more SDA housing in that area.
Interesting. So even within a region that's experiencing an overall construction boom, there are pockets of opportunity
There are.
for those who know where to look.
Exactly. And then you've got Port Adelaide East,
Okay.
which presents kind of a different scenario.
Okay.
It's oversupplied, but primarily with existing dwellings.
Hmm.
So while there might be a lot of SDA housing in that area already,
Right.
much of it might be older stock that doesn't meet those latest standards.
So a potential opening for investors with newer compliant properties
Possibly.
that can cater to the evolving needs of participants.
It's possible.
Now, here's something I found really interesting in the report.
Okay.
Adelaide North has a significant percentage of NDIS participants who aren't using their SDA funding.
Yeah.
What's going on there?
That's the critical question, and I think it deserves further investigation
Okay.
because it suggests a disconnect
Okay.
between the available supply
Yeah.
and what participants actually need or want.
So it's not just a matter of building more SDA.
No.
There are other factors at play that are preventing people from accessing the housing that they're entitled to.
Absolutely.
So it could be lack of awareness about SDA funding, or
It could be.
the application process being too complex,
It could be.
or a mismatch between the types of SDA being built and participant preferences.
Exactly.
So even in an area with a potential oversupply,
Right.
there might be an underlying unmet need.
Potentially.
Okay.
That's something for investors to really think about.
Now let's shift gears and head over to Perth Northwest.
Okay.
How does the picture there compare to Adelaide North?
So Perth Northwest paints a very different picture.
Okay.
Unlike Adelaide,
Yeah.
it's facing an overall undersupply of SDA housing,
Okay.
particularly in those improved livability, fully accessible, and robust categories.
So a potential gold mine for investors looking to tap into a market with high demand.
Potentially, yes,
Right,
but
yeah.
there are some nuances to consider.
Okay.
Construction is ramping up in Perth Northwest,
Okay.
but with a focus on building houses.
Okay. So while there's a current undersupply,
Yeah.
that could change.
Yeah. Okay.
Depending on how quickly those new constructions come online.
So timing is everything.
Yes.
Investors need to be aware of the pace of construction.
Yep.
Make sure they're not entering a market that's about to become saturated.
Right.
Did the report break down the Perth Northwest region?
It did.
Okay.
It provided insights into 3 key areas:
Okay.
Wanneroo, Joondalup, and Stirling,
Okay.
each with its own unique characteristics that investors need to be aware of.
Let's start with Wanneroo.
Okay.
What's the situation there?
So Wanneroo is interesting
Okay.
because it's expected to reach a balance
Okay.
between supply and demand
Okay.
relatively soon,
Okay.
primarily due to the number of houses being built.
Gotcha.
So while there's a current undersupply,
Yeah.
investors need to be mindful that that window of opportunity might be closing,
So perhaps not the best place to jump in right now.
unless you've got a project that's ready to go immediately. Okay, what about Joondalup?
So Joondalup is similar to Wanneroo
Okay.
in that it's also projected to reach a balance pretty soon.
Okay.
However, the new constructions in Joondalup
Yeah.
are primarily apartments and villas,
Okay.
which caters to a slightly different
Right.
segment of the market.
So understanding the type of housing being built
Yes,
and the target demographic
exactly.
is crucial.
Very important.
What about Stirling?
Stirling.
It sounds like it might be the tea tree gully of Perth Northwest.
That's a good analogy.
Okay.
Stirling is likely to remain undersupplied
Okay.
for the foreseeable future
Hmm.
due to the high demand and the limited construction activity.
So from an investment perspective,
Yeah,
Stirling might be the most attractive area
at the moment.
in Perth Northwest.
Yes.
Okay, so we've got Adelaide North with pockets of opportunity amidst a construction boom,
Right.
and Perth Northwest with an overall undersupply but rapid development in some areas.
Yep.
But both regions share a curious similarity.
They do.
A large percentage of participants aren't using their SDA funding.
Yeah, that's a fascinating parallel, isn't it? It
Yeah.
suggests there might be some systemic issues
Yeah.
or underlying barriers
Okay.
that are preventing people from accessing SDA.
Regardless of the overall supply and demand.
Exactly.
And in Perth Northwest, this trend is even more pronounced
Yes, it is.
than in Adelaide North.
It's very interesting.
It's like having a key to a door, but the door's locked.
Right.
Or maybe you don't even know where the door is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it raises some important questions that investors need to grapple with.
Okay.
Is it a lack of awareness about SDA funding?
Okay.
Are the housing options being developed not aligning with what participants actually need and want?
Hmm.
Are there other barriers?
Like what?
Like complex application processes?
Okay.
Or a lack of support services that are hindering access?
So it seems like simply building more SDA isn't the answer.
It doesn't seem to be the whole answer, no.
We need to understand the root causes of this low utilization rate
Absolutely.
and address those challenges.
100%. And this is where qualitative research comes in.
Okay.
Talking to participants and understanding their lived experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Data can tell us a lot about the numbers,
Right.
but it's the human stories that reveal the true complexities.
Okay, so we've laid the groundwork
I think so.
by exploring the current SDA landscape
Yes.
in Adelaide North and Perth Northwest.
Right.
But there's one more layer we need to add to this picture,
Okay.
the NDIS review.
Yes.
and its potential to shake things up.
You're absolutely right. The NDIS review is a game changer.
Okay.
And its recommendations could have a significant impact on both regions,
Right.
creating both challenges and opportunities for investors.
Well, let's unpack those implications in part 2 of this deep dive.
Sounds good.
We'll delve into how the NDIS review is likely to reshape the SDA market
Okay.
and what investors need to know to navigate these changes successfully.
I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome.
There's so much more to explore,
For sure.
especially when it comes to understanding how these policy shifts will affect investment strategies
Absolutely.
and the overall landscape of SDA in Australia.
Yeah. Awesome. Welcome back.
Yes, welcome back.
So we just finished exploring the SDA landscape
Yep.
in Adelaide North and Perth Northwest.
That's right.
And it's clear that there's just a lot to consider for potential investors,
Yeah, right.
especially with the NDIS review kind of looming.
Yeah.
Let's dig into the investment side of things a
Right.
little deeper.
Yeah.
What are some of the key things investors need to be thinking about
Well, I think,
in light of all this information?
yeah, the NDIS review's push to retire older stock is a big one.
Okay.
It's going to create both opportunities and risks.
Okay.
On the one hand, investors with newer, compliant properties in potentially oversupplied markets,
Right.
like parts of Adelaide North, might actually benefit.
Right, because as that older stock gets phased out,
Ex-
their properties become more attractive,
100%.
more competitive.
Yeah. But for investors holding on to those older assets,
Yeah.
it's a signal to adapt or potentially face losses.
Okay.
They might need to consider repurposing those properties,
Okay.
upgrading them to meet the new standards,
Yeah.
or even selling if those options aren't viable.
So it's not just about understanding the current market,
No.
but also anticipating how those changes
Right.
from the NDIS are going to play out.
Exactly.
Now, in areas with an undersupply like Perth Northwest,
Yeah.
it seems like it would be a no-brainer to invest.
Yeah, you would think so.
But I'm guessing it's not that simple.
It's not quite as straightforward as it might seem,
Okay.
while the demand is definitely there.
Yeah.
Remember that construction is booming,
Okay.
particularly in Wanneroo and Joondalup.
Okay.
Timing is crucial here.
Okay.
Jumping in too late could mean facing a saturated market,
Gotcha.
especially for certain SDA categories.
So due diligence is key. Investors need to really understand the pace of construction,
Yep.
the types of SDA being built,
100%.
and which categories are still in high demand before making a move.
Before you take that leap.
What other factors do you think are important for investors to be paying attention to?
Well, location is always a crucial factor in real estate,
Right.
and SDA is no exception.
Okay.
Properties in well-connected areas,
Okay.
close to amenities and transport,
Okay.
will always be in higher demand.
Yeah,
And they might command higher rents as well.
that makes sense.
You know, it's not just about functionality. It's
Right.
about creating a living environment that's truly desirable
Yeah.
and supports a good quality of life.
Okay.
And it's important to remember that SDA is about more than just bricks and mortar. It's
Yeah.
about supporting people's lives.
Right.
So investors who prioritize participant well-being
Go.
and create truly inclusive housing solutions,
Yeah.
they're the ones that are more likely to see success in the long run, both financially and in terms of making a positive impact.
It's about understanding the human side of the investment.
Absolutely.
And we've talked a lot about the low utilization of SDA funding.
Right.
How can investors factor that into their decision-making?
Well, it's definitely an important piece of the puzzle.
Okay.
On the surface, it seems a little counterintuitive, right?
Yeah.
High demand, yet many people aren't using their funding.
Right.
That suggests that there's a disconnect somewhere
Okay.
between what's being built and what participants actually need or want.
So how do we bridge that gap?
Right.
Is it just a matter of building more SDA homes?
I don't think so.
Or is there something deeper going on?
I think there's definitely something deeper going on.
Okay.
And I don't think there's a simple answer. I
Okay.
think it requires going beyond the numbers
Okay.
and truly understanding the lived experiences
Yeah.
of NDIS participants.
Okay.
You know, why aren't they accessing SDA?
Right.
Is it a lack of awareness about the funding?
Right.
Are the application processes too complex?
Yeah.
Maybe the housing options being developed just aren't aligning with their needs and preferences?
Or maybe it's a combination of all of those things.
It could be.
It seems like talking to participants,
Yes.
doing that qualitative research
Yeah,
is just as important as crunching the numbers.
I agree.
Okay, so investors who take the time to understand the why
Yes.
behind the low utilization rates
Uh-huh.
will be much better positioned to develop SDA solutions
I think so.
that meet the real needs of the market.
100%.
Okay, so we've got evolving government policies,
Right.
regional variations in supply and demand,
Yeah.
this need to understand and address low utilization rates.
Uh-huh.
And
I think one more thing, too, is
right.
the NDIS review's recommendation to phase out group houses.
Right.
It's a pretty significant change.
Yeah. What are the investment implications of that?
It's definitely going to reshape the SDA landscape.
Okay.
Investors with existing group houses will need to adapt. They might need to consider repurposing those properties
Right.
into smaller self-contained units.
Okay.
Or if the property is no longer viable,
Yeah.
selling might be the best option.
So a potential loss for some,
It could be.
but also an opportunity for others who are ready to adapt
Yes.
and embrace this new direction of the NDIS.
100%. This shift towards smaller, more independent living models
Okay.
is going to require some innovative design thinking
Okay.
and a deeper understanding of participant preferences.
Yeah.
Imagine apartments with accessible features,
Okay.
villas designed for shared living, but with individual privacy,
Yeah.
or even customized houses with assistive technology integrated into the design.
It sounds like there's a real opportunity here
I think so.
for creative solutions
Yeah.
that blend accessibility,
Right.
technology,
Yep.
and a focus on well-being.
Absolutely. This
Yeah.
is where I think the real opportunities lie.
Okay.
Investors who can think outside the box
Okay.
and create housing solutions
Yeah.
that cater to the diverse and evolving needs of participants,
Right.
they are likely to thrive in this evolving market.
Okay, so we've got evolving government policies,
Right.
regional variations in supply and demand.
Yeah.
This need to understand and address low utilization rates and a shift towards more independent living.
Yes,
It's a lot to take in.
it is.
What does all of this mean for the future of SDA investment?
It's a dynamic landscape, that's for sure. It's full of challenges,
Yeah.
but it's also full of opportunities.
Right.
I think the key takeaway for investors is to stay informed,
Okay.
be adaptable,
Yeah.
and prioritize participant well-being.
I love that.
It's not just about making money, it's about making a difference in people's lives.
Now, with all this talk about supply and demand,
Yeah.
I'm curious about the actual costs involved in SDA.
Okay.
How did the pricing work?
Well, SDA pricing is determined by the NDIS,
Okay.
and it's based on the design category and the level of support required.
Right.
It's a little bit complex,
Yeah.
but we can definitely break it down.
All right. Hit me with it.
Okay, so
What are the key things investors need to know about SDA pricing?
first, it's important to understand that SDA funding
Yeah.
is separate from rent.
Okay.
Participants pay rent based on their income and housing affordability,
Uh-huh.
while SDA funding covers the additional costs
Oh.
associated with the specialized design and support features
Gotcha.
of the property.
So there are two separate streams of income,
Exactly.
rent from the participant
Yep,
and SDA payments from the NDIS.
that's right. And those SDA payments are calculated based on a price per room
Okay.
per year.
Okay.
And they vary depending on the SDA category.
Okay.
So, for example,
Yep.
a high physical support room will attract a higher SDA payment
Okay.
than an improved livability room.
So higher support needs
Yes,
translates to higher SDA payments.
precisely.
Got it. Does location affect the SDA pricing at all?
So location doesn't directly impact that base SDA price,
Okay.
but it can definitely influence the overall investment viability.
Okay.
Properties in desirable locations, as we talked about earlier,
Right.
are more likely to command higher rents,
Right.
which makes them more attractive to investors from a financial perspective.
So it's a balancing act.
It is.
Investors need to consider the SDA pricing, the potential rental income,
Yeah.
and the desirability of the location
Yes.
to make sure they're going to get a good return on their investment.
Exactly. And they also need to factor in the cost of building or renovating to meet SDA standards,
Okay.
ongoing maintenance expenses,
Right.
and the potential for vacancy periods.
Okay.
So there are a lot of moving parts.
It sounds like SDA investment requires a deep understanding
It does.
of both the NDIS funding system
Yes,
and the real estate market.
it really does.
Are there any resources out there that can help investors navigate this complexity?
Absolutely.
Oh,
Organizations like SDA data, which produce the reports we've been discussing,
Right.
offer really valuable insights and data analysis.
Okay.
The NDIS itself provides detailed information on SBA pricing
Right.
and eligibility criteria.
Okay.
And of course, financial advisors and SDA experts can provide personalized guidance.
So it's about doing your homework,
Yes.
seeking expert advice,
Yep.
and carefully evaluating the potential risks and rewards
Uh-huh.
before diving in.
Before you jump in head first.
Okay, so it's a specialized market
Yes.
that requires careful consideration.
I agree.
But for those who do their due diligence
Yes.
and understand the nuances of SDA,
Yep.
it can be a very rewarding
I
investment,
think so.
both financially
Yes.
and in terms of its social impact.
Absolutely.
Well said. We've covered a lot of ground in this part.
We have.
Unpacking the financial aspects of SDA,
Yep.
the impact of the NDIS review,
Yes.
and the importance of understanding participant needs.
It's all very important.
But we're not done yet.
No, we're not.
Join us for part 3,
Yes.
where we'll distill all of this information into some actionable insights and explore some potential future trends that could shape the SDA landscape
Looking forward to it.
in the years to come.
I think it's going to be really interesting.
Welcome back to our final part of this SDA deep dive.
Yeah, it's been a journey.
It really has.
Exploring all this stuff.
We've gone from just understanding what SDA is
Right.
to really dissecting the trends
Yeah.
in supply and demand,
Absolutely.
and then even what the NDIS review could mean.
Right. All the potential impacts.
Yeah, I feel like we've covered so much.
We have. It's been a really comprehensive exploration, I think.
Yeah, and we've really tried to look at this from all angles,
Yes. That's the
especially from an investor's perspective.
Yes. For someone who's trying to just make sense of this whole thing.
Right, because it is complex.
It is very complex. And it's always changing, too.
It is, yeah. And in this final part, I think, let's try to distill all this information
Okay.
into some takeaways.
Yeah, that people can use.
Right, for you, the listener,
Yeah.
who's maybe considering,
Dipping their toes in the water.
right, dipping your toes into SDA investment.
Yeah.
If you were to give someone just a few pieces of advice
Okay.
based on everything we've talked about, what would they be?
I think the most important thing is to just be really diligent.
Right.
Do your due diligence.
Okay.
Don't just jump into a market because it seems like there's high demand.
Right.
You really need to understand the specifics.
Okay.
Like what SDA categories are actually needed
Yeah.
in that area.
Okay.
What's the pace of construction like?
Right.
Is there potential for oversaturation?
Okay.
Those reports you shared are great, but they're really just a starting point.
So it's not about finding any SDA property. It's about finding the right one
Exactly.
at the right time in the right place.
100%. And think long term.
Okay.
How's the NDIS review going to affect things?
Yeah.
Those older properties, they might need major upgrades.
Okay.
Maybe even need to be completely repurposed to still work as SDA housing.
And if you're building new.
If you're building new, think about those smaller,
Okay.
more independent models that we talked about.
Okay.
I think those are the kinds of properties that are going to be in demand for years to come.
So you've really got to be adaptable
Yeah, be ready to change with the times.
and forward thinking.
Absolutely.
Now, we talked so much about that low utilization rate.
Right, it's a head scratcher.
It is. How can investors
Yeah.
make sure their properties are actually meeting those needs?
I think community engagement is huge.
Okay.
Get connected with organizations,
Okay.
go to events, talk to participants directly.
Okay.
Figure out what they actually need and want.
Don't just assume.
Don't just guess, no.
Talk to people
Have conversations.
who are living with disabilities.
Yeah, asks them.
What would their ideal living situation look like?
Yeah, and what's stopping them from finding it now?
It's about building relationships
Yes, build those relationships.
and empowering people.
Exactly.
What other advice
Hmm.
would you give to someone who's new to SDA investment?
I'd say think bigger than just the money. Of course, SDA can be profitable,
Right.
but it also has this huge social impact.
Yeah.
You're creating these really high-quality homes.
Yeah.
You're helping create a more equitable society.
Yeah.
You're making things better for people with disabilities.
So align your investment with your values.
Exactly.
Okay. Looking ahead then.
Yeah.
What trends are you seeing?
Well, I think that focus on independent living
Yeah.
is only going to get bigger,
Okay.
and it's going to drive a lot of innovation
In what ways?
in design.
Okay.
We're going to see smaller, more
Yeah.
tech-enabled homes
Yeah.
that are all about accessibility and customization.
Gotcha.
So people have that sense of control that's so important.
So like smart homes?
Smart homes, but tailored for people with disabilities.
Gotcha.
Think voice control.
Oh, well,
All that assistive tech built right in and features you can change easily as someone's needs change.
so exciting possibilities.
Yeah, technology can really change things.
Any other trends that you think are worth mentioning?
I think sustainability is going to be huge.
Okay.
It's becoming important everywhere.
Yeah.
SDA is no different. We're
Yeah.
going to see energy-efficient designs,
Right.
sustainable materials,
Okay.
homes that are not just accessible,
Yeah.
but good for the planet, too.
Eco-friendly and inclusive.
Exactly.
Any final thoughts?
SDA investment,
Last
it's
one?
complicated,
Yeah.
but it's rewarding.
Yeah.
Stay informed, be adaptable,
Yeah.
put the participant first,
Yeah.
embrace new ideas,
Okay.
and you can really make a difference.
It's about more than just building houses.
Yeah, it's about building a better future.
And that's what it's all about.
That's the goal.
Well, this has been a really great conversation.
It has. It's a fascinating topic.
It is, yeah. And we've learned a lot.
Me too.
And to you, the listener, thank you so much for joining us
Yes, thanks for listening.
for this deep dive into SDA.
We hope it was helpful.
We hope you learn some things and feel empowered
Yeah.
to keep exploring this world.
And keep asking questions.
Exactly. Until next time,
Until next time,
keep diving deep.
keep learning.